Well, hello everyone, and welcome in. Welcome in to the six screens of the Watchtower JW World News. Well, my name is Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And people write me, they say, Rick, I wish I had a lot of apostates in my neck of the woods. Well, I'll tell you what, they're coming. Many, many people right now are leaving the Jehovah's Witness religion, and you know it. Even if you're still in and you're still having some feelings of goodness toward the Watchtower, and maybe you're listening in here tonight trying to find out why so many people are leaving, well, I'll tell you what. You continue listening tonight, and you're going to find out why these people who you've known for years are packing their bags from the Watchtower and becoming, as you would call them, apostates. Oh, we're so glad you're here with us tonight, though, friends. I have to tell you, I searched the internet all week long looking for stories, the top stories that are going on in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I have to tell you, I want to thank all the people that send me news articles. I want to thank everybody. Boy, this is like a UPI, United Press International holding company here. We get all of these stories coming in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank you for sending me your stories. When you guys come across a story in the witness world, send it to me, please, at jwworldnews@gmail.com. And I'll tell you, I really do thank you, because it helps me a lot putting this together. Because, there's so many things, going on 18 years ago when we first started the program, I didn't have all of these news articles. The only news we ever heard about the Watchtower was, for the most part, good. Oh, they're at a convention and they're spending money and the hotels love them. And we got all of this good news. But lately, the timing, not lately, but I'd say in the last 6 years, really 5 or 6 years, the tide has turned. All of a sudden, people are finding out just how bad the Jehovah's Witness organization is. They're now having a tarnished image. And you read very few news stories about the Jehovah's Witnesses in a positive sense. Most of the stories you read, or most of the videos they show on some of the local newscasts and national newscasts, have to deal with critical things going on in the Watchtower, negativity. So they're not getting the accolades that they used to. Friends, it's not the same Watchtower anymore. Well, we'll get right into it tonight with the news stories. And I just wanted to bring this up that, the PMEs, it's an acronym, right? We have all these acronyms for people leaving the Watchtower, like PMO, physically in, mentally out. Well, the PME, PIMI, that is physically in, mentally in. So you could say they're a loyal Jehovah's Witness. But don't you think the PMEs are noticing the falling numbers? Don't you think so? I do. I know you must think so too. They're going to the meetings. They're seeing empty seats. As a matter of fact, I had some information that was given to me concerning a man that went to the meeting with his father. The father is a real PME, really loyal to the Watchtower, but the young man is working his way out. He's a PMO, you could say. So anyways, I got this information from him, and he was saying went to the meeting the other night. It was the circuit overseer's visit. Now, when the circuit overseer would come around to your Kingdom Hall, everybody would show up, right? You'd have a hard time even getting his seat. So the other night, this man went to the meeting with his father, and the circuit overseer was there, and there was only 40 seats were filled. There was only 40 people there. And normally, just a few years back, prior to COVID, there was 150 people. And you guys can connect with what I'm saying. I sure you can connect with what I'm saying, because the same thing happened in your Kingdom Hall. I know every time the circuit overseer would come to my Kingdom Hall, it was packed. You had a hard time even finding a parking spot, never mind a seat. But it's not that way anymore. It's not like it used to be. And, during the meeting, the man that gave me this information, I found it quite fascinating. During the meeting, and the fathers are looking around, they're looking at all these empty seats. The father whispered in the young man's ear as he was looking around the hall. He's wondering, where is everybody? So many empty seats, he said. See, so the PMEs, the loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, they are noticing it, and don't think for a second they're not. So the young man who went to the meeting with his father, he said he was sorry for his father. He said he was honestly sorry for his father. The father gave up his worldly family for this stinking organization and many job opportunities. Think about it. Think about it. Look at all of the people that have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, that have lost their worldly family because they didn't want anything to do with them, and they lost good job opportunities. Many lost good marriages. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. The rate of decline right now is noticeable. It's profoundly noticeable. And it's destroying them, friends. We've been saying for years, what the great equalizer is, right? The great equalizer is the internet. It's destroying a lot of things. Not just the Watchtower, but it's destroying some of the false political problems that are going on in the world right now and catching some of these criminals. The internet, yes, indeed, is the great equalizer. Now, I know we have an older audience. I get into YouTube analytics, and I can tell, where people are calling in from. Did you know that one of the biggest cities that people call in from for this program is London, England? Yeah, New York is number one, but I believe it was London, England is number two for the biggest city list, where people call in from all over the world here and listen into our program. But let me tell you, in the 90s, things were different. This is not your grandfather's organization anymore. In the 1960s, and first of all, let me tell you, our audience is a lot of older ones, mature ones. Let's use that term. We have a lot of mature ones. So I know who my audience is. So I'm speaking to you out there. You've been going to the meetings for a long time. Since the 1960s. Like myself, I'm 75 years old. And I've been going to the meetings really since the 50s. But I can remember back in the 1960s, as I was a young kid, really, probably about 12 years old, 13. I know there was a different atmosphere at the meetings. It was very different. There seemed to be a purpose in everything. There really did. It was more well organized. The talks were more structured, and you got more information. So things changed. Things changed a lot. And I'm thinking, when they started to change, I'm going to go back to 1972. I'm going to mark that down, 1972. And what happened then? The elder arrangement actually started. So a new culture showed up in the Watchtower. And I believe that's what really started the Watchtower rot. I really do. I think that's when they began to become rotten, is when the elders showed up with this new arrangement. So that was in 72. And then also, I'm thinking what changed the organization from the 1960s is the 1975 fiasco. Yeah, Armageddon's coming in 1975. Sell your house, pioneer, do what you have to. And Armageddon's right here, 1975. Well, the 1975 fiasco, it did a lot of damage to the Watchtower. Did you know that back then in 1975 and a year or so afterwards, and Armageddon didn't come? Did you know 250,000 Jehovah's Witnesses left the organization? Now, things continued to escalate. And so 1975 was also a pivotal year. But also now I'm going to go with this. They started a constant, desperate change of trying to keep the generation teaching making sense. So they didn't know what to do with this. Really, this started popping up in the Well, in the late 80s, 90s, I mean, they kept all through the decades, really. They had to keep playing with it. They had to keep moving the goalpost. You guys all remember. You remember that really one of the reasons why I even stuck with the Jehovah's Witnesses is because of the generation teaching. I would always think of that. Well, this generation, uh, they're not going to all be dying off and then the end's going to come. Well, they kept moving that goalpost. Friends, they're all dead now, but they had to keep moving it. So now we're on the overlapping generation. I'm not going to get into telling you about that tonight. I know all about it, by the way. I've explained it many times. It's not necessary to even go into it because it's nonsense. How do you make sense out of nonsense, right? So I would say up until the late 1990s, the Jehovah's Witness religion was growing exponentially. Yes, it was growing. Congregations were actually splitting. They were consolidating. What they were doing is so many people were coming to the meetings, they had to, have a congregation now have two congregations meeting there, or they had to build a new hall. So things were really momentous. Things were happening in the Watchtower. Families were coming in. They were involved in building projects and refurbishing kingdom halls and quick builds. But right around 2000, early 2000, things had slowed. It was around 2013 that the cart work was now a new way to witness. Oh, yes, things are changing. They now were sending witnesses out with a cart filled with literature and hoping they could attract attention and get people to go to JEHOVAH'S.org. By 2014, the overlapping generation nonsense became stagnant. People weren't believing it anymore. And many, many people left because of the changing and stagnant understanding of the generation. And then things became right around 2014. Well, things became, my wife Susan always used the term Disney-esque. Well, you say, well, what is Disney-esque? Well, what about that cart song? I love my cart. Remember that song? Well, it kind of had a Disney feel to it. And we learned that Disney, there was a witness who was a higher up in the Disney studios. He actually, from what we understand, came to work at Watchtower and helped them to develop this new way of doing business, connect with people emotionally. Yeah, the Watchtower today, the difference that I would say with the Watchtower today and the Watchtower of yesteryear is the Watchtower today has this connection to people through emotions, the songs, the videos, they're connecting with emotions. The Watchtower of yesteryear would connect with reasoning and biblical teachings and solid food, so to speak. That's not the case today. And then by the start of 2020, just a few years ago, we started talking about many Bethelites getting the axe. They were getting booted out of Bethel. They were no longer needed. And then, of course, we learned too about the district overseers. Well, they're long gone. They've been gone for a while now. And the congregations began amalgamating, and halls were being sold. In other words, they would bring people from one congregation to another congregation to build up the attendance. They were amalgamating. They were mixing congregations together, making them bigger. But I'm going to tell you, can you folks think, for a second, what was the biggest bomb dropped on the Watchtower? What do you think was the biggest bomb dropped on the Watchtower? Well, I have to tell you, I think most of you know, it was COVID. COVID came and accelerated the downturn. More and more people found the exit door of the Watchtower. So now let's take a look where we are today. Well, we are in 2023, just to remind you. Sometimes years are moving so fast we forget where we are. Well, let me tell you what's going on here in 2023. There's a lot going on. But let's start here. Many elders are barely in their 20s. Now, that was kind of a rare thing decades ago, even 5-10 years ago. You wouldn't find a lot of elders, and there's a lot of them, folks, in their 20s and barely in their 20s. And forget about the ministerial servants. I mean, they just came out of short trousers. They're now wearing long pants. They're becoming ministerial servants really early, like in the late teens even. And how about the changing of the pioneer hours? Oh, well, 50 hours. Pioneers now get 50 hours in. Now, I don't want to sound like an old codger here, but if you want to go back to the 1960s, do you know how much time you had to do to get to be a pioneer in the 1960s? I believe it was 120 hours. Now to be a pioneer, it's only 50. So they cut that in half. And to be an auxiliary pioneer today, hey, only 15 hours will cut it for you. 15 hours, you can become a auxiliary pioneer. That wasn't the way when I was a witness, and when most of you were witnesses, you had to get 50 hours in a month to be an auxiliary. So they're cutting. Well, why do you think they're doing that? Just stop. I want you to use the gray mask between your ears. Why do you think the Jehovah's Witnesses brought the requirement of time, hours spent in pioneering, down? Oh, I think you got it. It's because nobody wants to be a pioneer. Would you want to go out and knock on doors or wheel a cart around the city for 120 hours a month? No way. So we'll make it 50. We'll make it 50. And you might get some takers. They're getting some takers. And we'll get auxiliary pioneers, 15 hours. See, that's a trick. That 15 hours a month is a trick. Why do I say that? Because what they're going to try to do is look at every elder and every publisher and say, look at 15 hours, you can do that. And you're an elder, you should set the example. I know that's where they're going with it. So now, other things that I'm noticing, and you folks realize that we just went to a great protest. And we have to say that we had a good time at the protest here at the Songa Center in Lowell. But I noticed something that I never noticed at conventions before. Now, this is a regional convention. And what I noticed is more security. It's the first thing I noticed. When we pulled up to do the protest, I looked at the front of the building. There was 6 or 8. I believe it was 8 security guards. And they had those lanyards. That's like a necklace you wear with a little badge on it. So these were security guys, and they had them looking at every door and who was going into the convention. So now what they're doing is security is heightened. That was never the way it was at conventions years ago. And also the meetings via video. That's also another thing. And that's not doing the witnesses any good either. But I have to tell you, I'm going to say tired, bored, and desperate. That truly sums up the spirit of the organization at the moment. Tired, bored, and desperate. That's it. The organization is in some sort of a crisis. Well, perhaps Tony Morris, perhaps he tried to warn them, but they kicked him out instead. I mean, that's even a possibility. I don't know. We can at least think about these things, right? But I have to tell you, COVID has really been the final blow, in my opinion, and the organization can't survive as it is now with so many people leaving and realizing what a burden it is to be a Jehovah's Witness. See, during COVID, they got a little break, right? They didn't have to go out knocking on doors. They didn't have to get all dressed up, so to speak, even though the Watchtower wanted them to get dressed up to go on Zoom. But it wasn't quite as perplexing. It was a little more relaxing. So the witnesses could kind of enjoy some time and think about things. Their lifestyle got better. And then when COVID's over, now they want them to come back to the meetings, and the witnesses, many of them are going, no, we don't want to come back to the meetings. So COVID, well, that's the great cult killer, right? Yep, that's the great cult killer. So anyways, that's my feelings on that. And it's not the same organization. Man, it has changed. But let me tell you, I mean, I'll level with you. There still are people that are joining. Now, there is more going out the back door than coming in the front door. I will assure you of that. But there's still gullible people that meet these witnesses at the cart or whatever would take place, and they become a Jehovah's Witness. And of course, remember too, a lot of these are people that would be born in, and that's how they're growing as well. But also, there's people that just will fall for anything. And witnesses have a good way of getting people when they're down to join their cult. That's how the cults work. Well, you're listening to JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But let me tell you now, I got to tell you about Atlantis. I got to tell you about Atlantis. We have been in contact, and I have written him. He's written me. Atlantis is an insider. Well, at least he has access to inside information from the Watchtower. And Atlantis sends me information. I'm not the only one. He sends some other people in as well. But I want to thank Atlantis for the information he sends us. And it's always announcements and reminders, right? That's what we get from Atlantis. When you were in the service meeting, don't you remember they would always read announcements and reminders? These would be like elders' letters that they would read to the congregation. But sometimes the elders wouldn't read it. It was only for them. But anyways, here's what the reminders are for right now. Listen to this closely. This got my attention. I see another money-making scheme here going on. Let me read this to you. So anyways, here's the letter. I'm reading it verbatim. Optional arrangements for receiving now get this, this is an acronym. KHCONF. Kingdom Hall Conference Plus. That's what they're calling this new optional arrangement. Now listen to what this is. It says, up until now, the organization has used disaster relief funds to purchase a large number of Zoom accounts for congregations' use during COVID-19 pandemic. Let me stop there for a second. I'm going to add my own thoughts here. So they're admitting here that they use disaster relief funds, which Jehovah's Witnesses would send to them for disaster. And they would use those funds to purchase a large number of Zoom accounts for congregations during COVID-19. I mean, I don't know if you want to call that good use of disaster funds, but they're calling it that, and they seem to be getting away with it. So let that be. We'll let that go, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. So let's go on with the letter. More about this KH conference, okay? We are now pleased to inform you that a new tool, KHCONF, Kingdom Hall Conference Plus, they call it Kingdom Hall Conference Plus, has been developed by our organization and is now available for congregations to use for holding hybrid congregation meetings. KHCONF Plus provides all the features contained in Zoom necessary to hold a congregation meeting, raise your hand, etc., and has been designed to use the smallest amount of data possible. Yeah, I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses, many of them are poor. Watchtower never wanted them to get a good career or get educated, so a lot of people don't have a lot of data use. They have to pay extra. So this new KN conference, oh my goodness, that's going to solve the poverty issue in the Watchtower. They won't have to use as much data. Oh, the tool can even be used in areas where poor internet coverage using the audio-only feature. So you can just listen to it as well, like a telephone line, like many are listening on here tonight. Publishers familiar with Zoom interface would have few problems switching to KH conference application. So they have it. There's a little more about it. But my thoughts on this, right now, they're being very generous. Watchtower usually isn't in generous mode. They've got something up their sleeve. So I believe that KH Conference Plus, well, it's like anything. Streaming services, they give it to you free, right? You can get a free account for a couple of weeks to listen in to Peacock, Fox News, channel, Fox Nation. Everyone has a stream, and they give it to you for free at first. But then what do? Up goes the price, and we'll have another letter here in a few months. We are so pleased to announce that Kingdom Hall Conferences have been so successful that we want more people, our brothers and sisters in Africa, to have it. So if everyone would like to donate for the African brothers and sisters to have KH conference, there you go. Another con game, another way to raise some money. That's what I'm thinking. That's my thoughts. Well, anyways, if anyone has any thoughts and you want to speak up and say hello to me, talk about one of the things we're discussing here tonight, go ahead, hit *6. Come on. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Go ahead. Come on, say something. Yeah, so I think it's just unbelievable what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And, another thing, too, that needs to be talked about tonight is the Watchtower lesson. I believe it's coming up this week. The Watchtower lesson, once again, is telling you about the media lies and how much lying is going on in the media. Whether it's media and watch on TV news or whether it's a newspaper. So they got to constantly reminding the publishers that, reading the newspaper, listening to news stories. Well, let me read it to you. That'd be the best thing to do here. I'll read it verbatim right out of the Watchtower. So you get an idea that's going on here. Let me just grab a drink here for a second, if you don't mind. Get some cold water here. Yeah, we have no commercials on this program. So, it's like nonstop. And once you turn the program on, you got to keep going and going and going. But just stop here for a second and take a drink of water because your mouth gets tired out and dried out. All right. So let me read this article. It's in the current Watchtower. And, well, first of all, here's what it says in paragraph 12. It says first of all, it starts off with the subheading, deceptions. Oh my goodness, there's plenty of deceptions. They're constantly suggesting that the Watchtower, everybody else is deceptive but them. So here's the title, Deceptions. Satan employs empty deception and the elementary things of the world to mislead and divide people. In the first century, these included philosophies based on human reasonings, unscriptural Jewish teachings, and the teaching that Christians must observe the Mosaic law. So they're starting out saying there's many deceptions and people have been fooled for centuries. Then it goes on to say these were deceptions because they took people's attention away from the true source of wisdom, Jehovah. Today, Satan uses the media and social networks. We're a social network, right? And social networks to spread conspiracy theories and false news reports promoted by political leaders. We saw much of this during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jehovah's Witnesses who listened to the guidance given by our organization avoided the undue anxieties and experienced by those who listen to misleading information. You see how the Watchtower, boy, they are smooth. They can kind of, I know what the witnesses are thinking when they read this. They're thinking of apostate literature. That's what they're thinking about. And they're thinking about all of these reports that's coming out of Pennsylvania about covering up child sex abuse. So, they're not going to come out and say that, but that's what they're saying. They're telling you without telling you. That's what they're saying in that article. So all of these media reports you're hearing, oh, that's just Satan the devil. He's exposing it. But, as I got thinking about it, it's a lie. Now think about this. I want you to really give this some thought. It's a lie when the media calls them out and exposes issues. But it's a blessing and truth when the media writes a glowing article. Have you ever noticed that about the Watchtower? Every article is ever written about them that has some glamour or happiness or telling a good story about the witnesses, they jump all over it. But any media story that really points to how dangerous and destructive they are guess what? They say it's misrepresented, it's untruthful, it's misinformation. So the same is true with science. I mean, I've read the Watchtower magazine for years, and I used to even think about it. When science agrees with the Jehovah's Witness, oh, science backs us up on this. But there's many things that science doesn't back the Jehovah's Witnesses up on. And guess what? They never mention that, do they? Do you see the pattern here that I'm talking about? Yeah, there's a definite pattern. That's how the Watchtower does it. Uh, Let me put it this side to you. The organization is speaking out of both sides of its mouth. Yeah, that goes on in organization, goes along a lot in the world of business, in the world of religion. The worst misleading information and anxiety that was ever raised, in my opinion, in my opinion, about the Watchtower, the worst misinformation and misleading, it gave people all kinds of anxiety, was during the COVID-19. And if you remember, we showed some of the video clips. Stephen Lett, governing body member, Jehovah's Witnesses, well, he came on, and because of the COVID-19 and the disease is spreading, and this is Armageddon, it's right around the corner. And he said, this is the last days of the last days. And then he said, undoubtedly, the last of the last days. I mean, he went on and on and on with his tirade of the last days. But, COVID went, and along went a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses as well, because they got misleading information. Now, when the Watchtower writing department, when they come up with a story, false stories is what they are, it's ridiculous what they say, and it's terrible lies for the most part, and they even contradict many things were written aforetime in Watchtower articles. So it's nothing but nonsensible gibberish. That's all it is. It's just not true. So, sometimes you say, has the Watchtower writers, have they lost their marbles? Are they inebriated? Really? And what really got me thinking about this, because we covered it quite a bit here on JW World News during the COVID, the Watchtower Society, they parroted the government COVID instructions. In other words, what the government was telling people to do, the government just took it, copied it, and pasted it to their instructions. And, this ticked a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses off. Not everybody was in favor of getting that COVID shot. Many witnesses did not want it, but they were viewed as being weak witnesses. They were viewed as being, not really following Jehovah's instructions, because all the Bethelites are getting the shot. So the Watchtower was trying to push all of the Jehovah's Witnesses into getting the COVID shot. And it really ticked a bunch of the Jehovah's Witnesses off. Jehovah's Witnesses, let's say this, were divided on vaccinations, and it caused a major conflict. So the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society opened its Kingdom Hall doors, and a little early even, and then even COVID even spread more. They kind of even exacerbated it somewhat. So why was the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, why were they so COVID obedient bent? Why were they really following the letter to the law and being so obedient to follow that law, when even it was conflicting with many conscience of the witnesses? Now, they're saying that, oh, we were protected during COVID. Jehovah protected us. Well, let me remind the witnesses, and I remind the audience as well, 26,000 Jehovah's Witnesses died from COVID. Yeah, 26,000. So I would have to ask even a better question, or at least a better statement. The better statement would be, where was Jehovah's protection for his chosen people to have 26,000 Jehovah's Witnesses die? The governing body just out and out lied to the rank and file, and they will do about anything to protect their cash cow. So I can't really wait. I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward here to something really coming up. I can't wait to see what their direction is when the space aliens show up. And they're coming. I don't want to be a tinfoil conspiracy man here tonight, but I'm telling you, the space aliens are going to show up shortly. It's all over the news. I know you heard it. So they're going to be showing up here shortly. And I want to know, what direction is the Watchtower going to give to the witnesses when the space aliens show up? That is going to be a trick and a half. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, let's bring you guys on. I'll love to hear from you guys. Go ahead, hit *6. Come on. Let's hear from you.
Don't. Hey, Rick?
Yes.
When you were talking about aliens and where Watchtower would direct everybody, there, and it's just a conspiracy, but it's called Project Bluebeam. And supposedly the government would make a mock alien invasion. And with all the chemtrails that they're putting in the sky with the planes, there's aluminum in it and stuff. And they have the technology to have very advanced, like holocrons or like to be able to project things in the sky. And the Project Bluebeam is about a fake Jesus coming back and how they projected in the sky. And I know this sounds crazy and it is a conspiracy theory, but like, where would the witnesses stand with that? Because right now, like when you're talking about the vaccines, they seem to be globalists. They seem to be doing what the globalists want for us. The globalists say in the future, you'll own nothing. You'll have a chip in your arm. You'll pay everything and you'll be happy. The witnesses now are saying in paradise, you'll work the job we tell you, you'll live where we tell you, and you'll be happy. There's just too many similarities. So I just thought I would add that 2 cents that I do think that they would steer them in the wrong direction no matter what happens, or whether the conspiracy is right or not. I just think that they're in bed with the shadow government.
Well, yeah, that's certainly could be the case, Eric. And I've heard about that too, hologramming of Jesus coming back. You hear a lot of things, but we are, well, according to everything I read and see, even on television, even the major news stations are showing pictures of these UFOs. They're getting ready for something. They're telling us before they tell us is what they're doing. So we'll be ready, but I'm really interested to see what the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to say. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, you're on with it.
Yeah,
go ahead. Yep.
Just okay. I'll leave it on to someone else.
No. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. We got you. Go ahead. Come back on. Eric?
No, that's okay. I'll let someone else talk.
All right.
Not that important.
All right. Well, you are important to me. Okay. Okay. Let's go with 304. 304. You're on with us. Go ahead. Looks like West Virginia. Yes, Kurt.
Yeah, Rick. Kurt. Yeah, Kurt. I just wanted to compliment you on your program so far. I think it's probably the best I've ever heard you that I can remember. You're doing really good tonight. Just wanted to speak to you and tell you that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Here, I don't know what it is. I feel good tonight. My voice isn't raspy. Maybe it's because we had so much rain and washed all the pollen away, but I can talk like I normally do. So that might be it. But thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that. I really, really do. Okay, we do have, let's go with 906. It looks like the Northern Peninsula of Michigan. Go ahead, 906.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Farron, and hello, everybody from the Six Screens Network. Thank you for taking my call again. Yeah, I've been listening off and on to the program here with a lot of interest, and it seems like that we're living in perilous times like we've never seen before. Now, I'm in my 70s here this day and age, and I've never seen anything like it here before. But the religious societies are not as powerful as they used to be. They're in decline. That's the Watchtower is no exception. They're in decline as well. Like in Muskegon, Michigan, I just heard the news there that 2 Catholic churches are going to be closing over there and so forth. But the Watchtower Society seems to keep on making the same old mistakes again and so forth. And it's not doing any good, and it's not getting them anywhere. And as far as these prophecies and everything like that, none of them have ever come true. These end of the world prophecies. So I think that it's to the point right now where people are finally realizing, compared to years ago, that hey, something's wrong here, and we're just not going to listen anymore. Next time around, you come up with something, you come up with the facts, and we'll believe it when we see it. It's going to be the attitude of most people there. So it's this society we're living in right now is, in the political climate and everything, is nothing like I've ever seen before, and you just wonder what's going to happen from day to day right now because it's so perilous.
Well, Ken, you sound like an intelligent man, a reasonable man to me. Uh, what do you think? I mean, not just with the Watchtower, but when something factual is put in front of your face, when you see something, it's not nonsense. It's a fact. You can tell this could be true. Why is it, do you think people will not adhere to that? What's going on in their head, Ken? Do you have any idea?
Well, golly, I don't know, because I have seen people say some of the stupidest things, do some of the stupidest things, and I can't understand the reasoning of people in general, this day and age right now. Like, well, you and I right now, we kind of reason things out, and we kind of sort things out. And I myself, being a librarian and research analyst, in the past, I like to sort things out, and I like to get the facts in front of me. But I mean, there's so many people that don't. They just pick up the first bit of information, they grab it, and they run with it. I mean, that's no good.
Well,
so I don't know. People are going to have to start waking up, and they're going to have to start sorting things out, and they're going to have to start using their power of reasoning here, and so forth. And they're going to have to start. Well, in other words, they're going to have to start just getting an education of common sense and start using it.
Well, I'll tell you, Ken, in fact, you got me thinking of my visit last night to the market. I stopped at the market on the way home, and I went in, and I was at the meat counter. And there was a man who was about my age, and he wanted to get some meat. So he said to me, they what they do with this meat counter I went to at the market, they take hamburger and they make a patty out of it. That they call them pub burgers. It's like a patty. So I don't know how much meat is in there, but the man says to me, how much? He says, sir, he says, how much meat would you think is in one of those patties? I said, gee, I says, I don't know. I imagine it's probably about a half a pound. I would think maybe a little bit more because they were pretty big. So he, hold on one second. I'm just going to mute this person right here for now. Just hold on. Because YouTube's on. You gotta kind of turn, when you're talking, you gotta turn YouTube off. So the man asked me, how much meat do you think is in that patty? I says, well, probably about a half a pound or so. So he says, well, my wife and I were having such a hard time, or watching our budget, the inflation, the way the world is today, everything is changing so much. My wife and I are having a hard time with all of this. So, Ken, people are starting to think about these things. We're living in difficult times, and it's a sad state of affairs. Now, not everybody is in that state, but so many people have fallen through the cracks because of the high inflation. Many people are worried, like you just said. They don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. And he even voiced that to me. He said he wasn't even sure what was going to happen. He says, he says, our world is shot. And I've been hearing comments like this all over the place. So, I mean, I don't know if we can bring that into the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. See, they might use something like that as a claim to become a witness. Well, become a witness and you'll get the real answers. So, they capitalize on events that are bad like this. But right now, a lot of people are really seeing something is not right out there. Well, thank you, Ken, for calling in. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep listening, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. Well, we got another caller from Michigan. It looks like we got 989. I know who that is. Come on in, Michael.
Oh yeah, hi Rick. I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit off topic, but you're talking about things going on in the world. I don't know if yourself or anyone else might have any thoughts. Did you see the story? I believe it was in Utah. The FBI showed up and shot a 75-year-old man that weighed 300 pounds. They blew him away because he made it some so-called threats to the president on I guess, Twitter. They shot the guy dead. And it's not a big story going on the news. But, that just tells you what's happening. Freedom's going away.
Well, no, thank you for saying. I didn't see that story. My goodness, that seems like a that's
true, Rick.
yeah.
But they don't want you to talk about this. Well, I was listening to who Glenn Beck is.
Oh, sure.
Well, the guy was a Mormon who got killed.
Yeah.
Glenn Beck's a Mormon. I think maybe that's one reason he was interested in this. He talked to a friend of this guy that knew him, who was a member of the church, the Mormon church. This guy was 75 years old, Rick. He actually said this. This man knows him personally. This man was in such frail condition, he said he couldn't get out of a chair without using a walking stick. That's how bad condition he was. He was 75 years old, 300 pounds.
And shot him.
And he had a son that was blind. And the FBI, they showed up at the man's house 6 months before this, and they spoke to him. And he might have made threats. He said, the guy's old. Maybe he's a little cantankerous, okay? But they could have easily seen his condition. This guy's not a threat. He did say some stuff online, allegedly, that sounded pretty bad. I get it. People do that.
Yeah.
They show up there and they blow this guy away. There ain't nothing being said about it. Nothing. No word. Nothing.
Well, that's a changing world.
Yeah. But no, I'm not making this up. This is all true.
Oh.
And I don't know. I know you got your conspiracy theorists on there. I'd like to hear maybe they know something about it more than I do. But it just shows. You say something anymore. You're a certain type of person. You can be treated differently. They don't care. But some guy like so certain people they get killed and they're turned into some kind of a saint.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. I ain't gonna say no more because I know what people think about that. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, no. Well,
Anyone else has any thoughts about
well, thank you for sharing. It's pretty much on topic. I mean, we were talking about the world changing. Thank you, Mike. Always good to hear from you. All right. So let's go now. We've got the area code 925. You want to say something? 925. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, Rick. Just coming off of what he just said, you think about another president not long ago, there were celebrities like Madonna making open threats publicly toward him. The comedian held a beheading thing up, a bloody beheading of a former president. So back then, that was all free speech. So we are moving in some strange times. When certain people are indicted, it's very puzzling. Some people would never do such a thing like indict a political opponent just because of the optics. It's no good, It's like beat them in the election. But if you can't, because of the conditions that have come about. So there's no question. I fully agree with what you just said. These are strange times, and of course, witnesses would just look at it for like an opportunity, like an issue, like going to somebody's door after a death, which they're known to do, and then these scary times fit into a last day narrative. But that doesn't make them right about that.
Oh, no, that's a good one. Yeah, you're right. I'm with you 100%, and I want to thank you for checking in with us tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Yeah. Come back and see us again soon. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to looks like we're gonna go down to New York City, I believe. It looks like 718. That's you. I think that's Shirley.
Yeah. Hi. These two last guys they're talking about. I believe the first guy that mentioned that guy, it was in the paper. His last name was Robinson. It's been in the paper. He threatened Biden, and I think that judge is going to prosecute him. And it's been all in the papers, right? That guy, even he said he was an ultra MAGA guy.
He's dead.
Okay.
So, you have the right to support whoever, but that guy, he wouldn't have been shot. You can't, say you're going to shoot Trump, Biden, or whoever without consequences. So,
yeah,
why that guy was shot.
All right, well, we're going to bring Mike, but Mike, I'm going to bring you on, but I want you to go gentle with Shirley, okay? Go gentle.
No, Mike, I have no time for someone who's going to start with the N-word. I'm not even, you don't want me to go there, Rick. You don't want me to start with Mike.
Okay, well, okay,
okay,
we won't go with Mike.
I will go there with Mike, but you don't want me to go there.
All right, well,
Mike.
we won't go there with him right now. All right, good. Okay.
I will, but you don't want me to.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna leave it up to you. We'll let it go for now with Mike, but we'll let it go. I don't want to get into a big battle royal
Hi,
here.
Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Kim here.
Yes, Kim.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, Kim. I just so these crazy times that everyone's talking about, there's an actual proper term for that, and it's called the post-truth world. What that means is that since the 2016 American election, when Trump got in, with the help of Twitter, after that, social media was taken over and controlled, that anything you say outside a certain narrative, you're not allowed to say anymore. So we saw that with the advent of COVID, stolen election claims, climate change. If you say anything outside the accepted narrative, that is censored. So their versions, there's one version of truth that's allowed. Many scientists come forward to fight against COVID. They were shut down. They come to fight against the jab. It was shut down. It's the same with climate. So you're in this post-truth world now, right? And that's the way it is. So any talking points that come out on media in a big way, those are usually put there in advance to either fool the population or get them into a certain way of thinking, such as the whole alien thing. That Project Bluebeam that Eric was talking about, that's been planned since the 1950s. So this is a long time in the making. And before that, they dismissed any such idea. But why is it now that it's getting to it's all these things are to deceive the public. The climate change thing, whether that's real or whether that's not, it's about control. It's to deceive the public, to control the public and take away certain rights under the guise of doing something for you that's going to, be good for you, such as with COVID. They took your rights and said it's because, you're going to spread this disease, So with climate change, every climate disaster they put on blast over the media, and they allow a range of thought processes from right and left wing, mostly left wing in this day and age, but it's all within the allowed narrative. If you talk out of that realm, you're shut down. So we're at that point now. Tying it into Watchtower, they repeated all the COVID talking points, which even in mainstream media has come out now that most of that was garbage. The vaccine was meant to, you were told even by Biden that was going to prevent spread. It did not. It's been proven. The masks were supposed to be good for you. Witnesses in their skits, their little plays they had, literally had a guy there and they were saying that he was like weak in faith for not obeying wearing the mask. Studies have come out which have shown that the masks do actually nothing. It's just a visual means of control, and if you fall out of line, you can be ridiculed, you can be arrested, all that type of a thing. So all those COVID talking points, the jab, well, yeah, at this point, it's kept quiet, the deaths, but more and more information is coming out about the deaths, the adverse reactions.
Yeah, we can't listen, brother. We can't, sir, we can't talk about that. I've been warned here on YouTube. We can't do. We can do a little bit, but we can't. We can't.
I won't talk about that, but that kind of highlights my point. These things are censored for a reason, and it's got to do with money. Money and control. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah. So with the witnesses, okay, I do believe we're in end times, but are they going to warn us if anything comes, like what you said with the whole alien thing? No. They're proven to give bad advice, and they're always going to give you the opposite advice than what you should be getting. Like for them to even say that some of these things are conspiracy, that's actually just making a person turn off mentally from information that they should at very least be looking at.
Yeah.
So yeah, all this stuff that's coming out now, it's the media and everything. Yes, the witnesses are right, the media is incorrect, but they parrot the media, they copy the media, they only allow you to have one viewpoint, and any opposite viewpoint isn't allowed, which is it's just insane to me. So yeah, I suppose all I can really say is, like, typical witnesses, anything that happens in the world that's going to be of real importance, they're not going to warn anyone about it. In fact, they're just going to copy the media talking points, unless the media says something about them, and then suddenly, well, that media is wrong, and then they can have their own little conspiracies. Right. Every single thing that's said bad about a witness is suddenly wrong. You know. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
All right. Thank you for checking in with us. And no, listen, it's I'd love to get into it. And you know, we have, as witnesses, there's no reason, as ex-witnesses, I should say, as ex-witnesses, there's no reason why we can't bring up some of these political thoughts from time to time. You know, it doesn't matter. We're still all working together, exposing the Watchtower. But all of us on this program, we have different opinions. We're not all on the same train, so to speak, politically. But more and more people are waking up, Tim. More and more people are waking up, and they're saying, man, something's wrong in this world. This isn't normal. Okay, we have another caller coming in. Let's go with 678. Caller 678, you're on with us.
Hey, this is me, Justin. Hey, I like your summary you just mentioned there, because I have to be honest with you. For a moment, I kind of stayed away from the sixth screen because it did get to be a little political, and it got to be a lot racial on here. And I like it when we speaking about the Watchtower and the news, what's going on, because I got to tell you, you have a big audience and you have a lot of different demographics that listen to this program. And when it's one-sided and it's got a leaning toward, gets political and it gets towards hatred, I gotta tell you, that's something that's going to turn off any witness that would come on and listen to this program. So I do want to applaud you for trying to keep it down the straight and middle. You do have programs that go into conspiracy theories and goes into politics. If people want to do that on those other programs, that's fine. But when you get people on here to do the attacking and stuff like that, and we all know that the demographic on this particular program is one way versus another way, that's fine. The numbers outnumber us or what have you. But I think people like Shirley, she keeps her real dignified. I try to be dignified as well and not get into the name calling. That's one thing I do say about the witnesses for the most part, but in the organization, that would be a pretty good thing. But I gotta tell you, man, when I get into these ex-witness sites and programs and I hear some of this stuff, man, it makes me really, really cringe, and I can't believe it. So, Rick, thank you for trying to keep it down the middle of the road. Thank you for keeping it on JW News. What's going on in the Watchtower? The news the Watchtower doesn't want us speaking about. I think that should be the main focus. Thank you so much, Rick, for what you do. And thank you to your audience. For the most part, it's dignified, it's respectful, and real good people. Thank you, Rick.
Well, I appreciate that, Justin. You're right. We do have a really good audience. We got a lot of really good people, and we love them all. And we're always, listen, there's always going to be different opinions. There's always going to be different opinions. And what happens is when people come in, it's one thing, you know, let me just say this. You can say things in a certain way. Things can be said in a certain way, and anyone will let you get away with it. But when you have to come on and criticizing, using terms that are very slang and digging deep into people's culture, you don't do stuff like that. And, you know, but people have a right to their opinion if they wouldn't do that. Everyone has a voice, but when people start attacking one another like that, we don't go for it. Thank you, Justin. All right,
Hello?
Mike. Listen, I'm not gonna. If you say anything, if you say,
I was just gonna make a quick comment, Rick. I'm just gonna say something real quick, and this is all I'm gonna say.
and I know it's going to be derogatory. I know it's going to be.
No, it's not. No. I'm just gonna say this. When I brought up about this guy getting shot, okay, I brought up he got shot. And then I was told, oh, well, he made a threat against the president. Now, I'd like to know, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, if I said about George Floyd or someone else, well, he was resisting arrest. Well, what would my response be? But she comes on there, he says, well, he threatened the president.
When you say you're going to shoot someone, it's considered a terrorist threat. A friend of mine was in elementary school. A friend of mine was in elementary school. Said he was
Wait a minute. We all can't be talking at once here. Well, let's just hold on here.
Let's get back to the Watchtower news.
Yeah, Mike. Let's let it go. But
being bullied.
What's that, Apostle Babe? Did you say something, Linda? What did you want to say, Linda?
Okay, so like 15, 20 years ago, a friend of mine's son was in grammar school, elementary school. Kids were bullying him. He threatened to come back the next day with a gun and to take care of them, right? That got him expelled. And you know why? For what he committed was a terrorist threat, because he told them he would come back to shoot them. When somebody says they're going to shoot somebody, these are other fellow kids at school. What he did was commit a terrorist threat. So this guy has been making accusations that he's going to shoot all kinds of people.
Well, let me just. But I'm not going to get I'm not going to get political, Linda. But do you think the man should have been shot and killed?
I do not. I do not have a viewpoint on it. I'm just saying, when you do that, you're going to be treated as a terrorist. Please don't do that. That's very dangerous for you, for anybody.
Well, the thing is, though, I mean, if the man was shot, killed, 75 years old, could hardly even walk, there's got to be an investigation. They could have taken the man in. He had due process. But if that's the truth, and I don't disbelieve what Mike said, the man should have at least been brought in for at least to be able to explain himself. That's just a changing world. It has nothing to do with nothing to do with politics, Democrats, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, nothing to do with that. I'm just saying that the world is changing. And when I bring it up that, this is the witnesses are going to use this. That's what they're going to use. But we'll get off of that. I know politics is
my point is whether there's a president there or not, if you use that lingo, it's been categorized as a terrorist threat, whether it's the kids at school or somebody that's the manager at the restaurant. If you threaten to do this, it's considered a terrorist threat.
Well,
you are putting yourself in danger. Please don't do that.
I understand, but there's threats all day long. People have threatened people.
But it doesn't fall under free speech. I can't go into a theater and scream fire and get everybody panicked, because you know what happens when a whole bunch of people go running out the door at the same time? A few people fall, and then the people stamp on top of them as they're running over them in a panic to get out. And those people that fall down are killed.
But you don't get the death penalty. You don't get the death penalty for it. You're brought into court and you're able to defend yourself if you can. So that's the point. I think
I'm not talking about death penalty. What I'm saying is that doesn't fall under free speech either. I can't yell fire in a crowded room, and I can't say I'm going to shoot somebody.
Yeah,
it just doesn't fall under free speech. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Going along with what Linda just said, the man had posted on Facebook multiple threats against multiple people. He had posted videos of himself holding an arsenal of weapons. And when he found out that the president, it doesn't matter who it would be, but the fact that he made a threat directly, and he said that was going to be the reason for him to get dressed and take them all out. And he showed himself with a picture of his machine gun thing, or I don't know, one of them rifles, they all kill people, but that.
The man couldn't even walk.
All right. So All right. Let me just hold on 1 second here. Let me just step into the arena here for a second. Then we're going to end this and move on to the news. But what I want to say at this point, I'm just going to use an old euphemism of saying what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It was brought up that I can remember a year or so ago, some comedian came on and they were holding like a dummy's head of Trump, like they killed Trump and here's his head. Now, nothing ever happened to that person. Nothing. I would say that's as big a threat as can be. Nothing ever happened to that comedian. So why does it always lean one way? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's my thoughts on it. I mean, not even making a political thought, but I'm just saying that, it can't be just one way. It's got to go both ways. So that's my thoughts.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. I'm not trying to make it political either.
Yeah.
Like Linda said. But Linda said it's a terroristic threat. And it didn't mention him being feeble. They said he looked like he came out with a gun in his hand, and that's why they shot him.
Yeah.
Of course, they might would have shot him anyway.
Well, I'm sure it'll be brought into court, but I hope it's not all covered up. If the man really was, look, I'm not going to even get in. We're not going to get into it. It's not. We don't do it here, so
Okay.
it gets people. So, anyways, let's move on from it. Well, let's move on. Let's.
Rick?
Yes.
Hi, Richard, Steve.
Yes, Dave.
From the UK.
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to completely change the subject here. I just wanted to make a comment about something you said about conf earlier on. It's interesting because the society are telling people that they prefer people to be there in person. They're saying that through one side of their mouth, and yet they're encouraging people to use conf plus. conf is very similar to Zoom. I used to use it before Zoom was a thing, and it's a similar thing. And I think that it fits in with their agenda because it's a good way of explaining why there's so many empty seats at the Kingdom Hall and at the assemblies. Because if they think that people are using something like Zoom, then they'll just automatically think, oh, well, they're not here because they're on Zoom or conf or whatever it is. And so they'll automatically think that. And so it's a good scapegoat for them as to why people are not there, why they've got so many people missing. That's just the thought I had anyway about that.
Well, Steve, that's a great thought. I mean, you got a good mind there, I'll tell you, because you're looking into this. I see there's reasons why they're doing this, but yeah, it could be subterfuge. Well, we got people on various networks here, so the numbers are dropping, and we don't see it, but they're there. I mean, they could use it in any way they want to kind of explain that. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for
exactly.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming in and talking with us tonight. Always good to hear from the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Steve. Well, my friends, you are on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't like to talk about. And sometimes we do get into different little variations of thought here. But, we are ex-witnesses. And at times, politics does pop up. And the only problem we have here is there's a lot of differing opinions. And before you know it, we get into a debate and everything else. So we try to keep it down, but from time to time it does come up. Okay, we got Saskatchewan, Canada. Is it? Go ahead, 306. You're on with it.
Hello, it's Bob from Saskatchewan. I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yes,
Bob. Conversation. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that movie, The Sound of Freedom, and they say that with child sex trafficking, and since we're on the news right now. Anyways, they said it's almost in the States there, the child sex trafficking so bad that it's almost surpassing the sale of illegal drugs, and it will soon. And also they're saying that it has surpassed the illegal arms trade, something in the $30 billion a year mark. So anyways, my point is I think we are close to the last days. If there is a God in heaven and he sees people, these young children, being sexually abused all over the planet, and that's just the States. That's not the whole planet, over 30 billion people. It's just the States. So anyhow, my point is how in the past in the Bible, God had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of these perverted sexual practices. I'm just wondering if we are, if you think perhaps we're close to the end of times, and if there is a God in heaven, is he going to take action soon against all this? Because he's obviously got to be disgusted with what's going on worldwide with this child sexual trafficking and abuse. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I mean, I could tell you, I'm a Christian man. I don't really, preach to people much on Saturday night. But I mean, just being a
Yep.
Christian, I can tell you that, you know, obviously it's not just Christians that are thinking about what's going on in the world today. Many other people are, people that never even thought about Christianity. It's not right. You're hearing about all of this sexual abuse for children. You're now seeing that, well, I just was reading a story today about 2 FBI men that were shot investigating child sex rings. This is a big thing that's going on. It's bigger than we think. And billions of dollars, like you say, and the big guys are getting away with it. Many politicians are involved with it. Many movie stars are involved with it. Big time religions involved with it. This is something we never heard about. I mean, 20 years ago, I didn't even know what a pedophile was. I didn't. But today it's all over the news, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, so it makes one think anyways, you know, especially like you had mentioned, you know, when, you know, of course we had the Jeffrey Epstein there thing a little while ago, Ghislaine Maxwell, and, you know, and now, you know, people are pointing fingers at Oprah Winfrey, you know, Mel Gibson is promoting that movie, The Sound of Freedom, you know, it really makes you wonder, you know, I guess that's my point, you know.
Well,
I appreciate your comment.
Well, no, thank you. But where people are today is, let me put it this way: we're all stuck in neutral. A lot of people, they had plans for many things, then they're not going to do it. They don't know from one day to the next what gasoline is going to cost. They don't know from one day to the next what is going to hit them monetarily, that they're going to not be able to pay. They're also wondering from one day to the next what's going to go on in Ukraine. What ramifications is this going to have to America if all of this money keeps being sucked out of America and giving to the Ukrainian government? They don't know. So people are. It's not like, you know, in the 1950s, the 1960s, you had your little house with a little white picket fence. Nobody, you know, Leave It to Beaver, Donna Reed. You remember those shows, Father Knows Best? That's gone. People today, they wake up with headaches, just wondering how they're going to be able to get through the day. And there are people that are really, it's not just economically, but there are a lot of people falling through the cracks. But the main thing today, people do not know where they stand. They do not know what's going to happen. They cannot plan anything. And when you do that, when you take that ability away from people to plan, bad consequences happen. That's exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses, when we had Jerry Bergman, he is a psychiatrist. He used to work with the Jehovah's Witnesses. He's a former witness, and he's been on our program a number of times. And he said the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses have so much mental illness is because the ability of not being able to plan. Well, I can't do this because Armageddon's coming. I can't have kids. I can't have a good job. I can't go to school. That is a killer for the human psyche. And that's what Dr. Jerry Bergman said. So we can't, so today the world is faced with the same thing. We can't plan. I can't tell you, I have natural gas. That's how I heat my house here, with natural gas. They're already saying that natural gas is going to go to the moon this year. And I'm thinking, my God, well, what are we going to pay around? I mean, it's expensive even in the summertime. I don't even use the gas. What's it going to be like in the winter? I've never experienced this before. Utility costs used to always be the same. Gasoline prices were the same. So I'm not going to listen to anybody coming on here and saying nothing's changed. It has changed. Yes. Thank you.
It really seems like the human family, Rick, that is exactly right what you just said. They're trying to, you know, it really seems like the human family is really in some serious trouble now, and that we're getting attacked from every angle, you know, as far as our finances go, as far as our family goes, as far as our safety goes, all those things that you mentioned, you know, it really seems like we're being attacked. These are difficult times.
Yes, it is. You know, I'm kind of laughing, not, brother, I thank you for calling him. I'm laughing at some of the comments I'm seeing here on YouTube, So my good friend Gilbert Gonzalez, when I mentioned that I have natural gas, he says Rick has natural gas. And then another person writes, well, he does eat those Boston beans. I'll tell you, we got some quick thinkers here on the 6 screens. I'll tell you that right now. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Go ahead, Saskatchewan. Go ahead, Saskatchewan.
Oh yeah, it's funny about natural gas up here in Canada. There's such a abundant supply of it. The price shouldn't be raised on it. They should put a cap on the price. When I was in northern BC working, there are multi-million-dollar wells that they cap off up there for natural gas. And the reason why they do that is because it's not enough. They want the $100 million wells. They want the $200 million wells. They don't want the $10 million wells. So there's millions of those smaller wells all over this country. There's no reason for raising natural gas.
Well, I'm with you. Well, thank. I always like you calling in from Canada, and don't you be a stranger. Now you come back and see us soon, okay?
Thanks so much, Rick. It's been great.
Good to have you. Yes, absolutely. Well, we're so glad we get a lot of people calling in tonight, and we are on the news. The Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great that we can come on. And not only that, we have people in real time that can express their views, their feelings. I think it's a marvelous thing to be able to do that. Well, as I said earlier, we search the internet. We always try to come up with the top stories in the Watchtower for the whole week. But I have to tell you, the biggest story this week, the absolute biggest story this week is about Pimo Bethel Elder. Goes by Bethel Elder. That's what he goes by. That's his username. But he leaked a video. Now, he is a Pimo. That is, he's in the Watchtower. He's a insider, and he's a Pimo. He's physically in and mentally out, but nonetheless, he's a elder in the Watchtower. I don't know if he's at Patterson or Warwick, wherever he is, but he's been putting out videos on Reddit. And I don't know if you guys have been seeing some of the videos, but this guy is really spilling the beans on the Watchtower. So anyways, he posted in the last few days, really, but it's down now. But I do have it. I got it before they took it down. He posted a training video for circuit overseers. Yeah, there's a training video that Watchtower has for circuit overseers. And it's actually elders sitting down and discussing about one of the elders' daughters. In fact, his 2 daughters are pursuing a higher education and how bad that is. And they wanted to delete the brother as an elder. So this is a circuit overseer training video. So the subject of the video was this brother, as I just mentioned, has 2 daughters that want to get higher education. They want to go to college. But the other brothers in the congregation, the other elders are saying, no, he shouldn't support that. He shouldn't want his children to go to college. So it's disgusting. I mean, this video of the elders talking to this brother, well, they're talking to him as though his daughters want to be pole dancers. And that's not the case. They just want to go to college and get an education. So they're making a big deal about it. And the other elders are saying that there's people in the congregation that are disturbed and upset because the elder is supporting the idea that his children want to get an education. Some of the elders were saying to him that, the congregation's confused over the governing body's stand on higher education. In other words, if the governing body doesn't want you to get an education, which they don't, then why is this elder allowing his daughters to get an education? This is a very twisted and sick cult. I'm going to play the video. You're going to hear it if you're on Radio Network. You're going to see it if you're on Facebook and YouTube. But I want to play the video. I'm glad I got it before it's being removed. But let's play the video. Now, let me just crank it up here so you guys can see it. Just give me a second, and I'll be able to get this up so we can get it to play for you. I just have to do one thing here. Make sure we got the right studio in here that I'm on, and then we'll be all right. Just give me a second here. So I got to get in there and share the screen. You're going to be fascinated when you hear this. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So it's, well, it's not that one. Just give me a second here. Okay, I believe it's right here, which it is. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to share this. So let me do this right now. Let's share it, which I'm doing right now. Let's make it big screen so you can see it even better. So it's being shared. Now let me turn it on so you can hear it. So just to give you the understanding of it, this is a video that was leaked by an insider at Watchtower, and it's concerning an elders meeting, and it's for circuit overseers to observe this and kind of give instructions. But just listen in. It's 7 minutes long. We won't play it all, but I really want you to get the import of what's being said here. So let's play it right now. Let's turn the video on, the audio on so you can hear it. All right, let me just unmute it. And we'll go right back.
After we spoke,
okay, here we go.
And the impact that his family situation is having on the congregation. I asked you, brothers, to review his qualifications as an elder. After we spoke, and Brother Brown had an opportunity to explain to me some of the decisions that he's made for his family. I'm aware that you brothers have considered this matter before, but since then, another one of Brother Brown's daughters have enrolled in a school for higher education, which raises questions as to how this affects the congregation. When we make decisions, it's important that we consider the conscience of the congregation as well as the elder body. Brother Brown, I know this can't be easy for you, and it's not easy for us either. Please be assured that we love you, and we only want what's best for you and your family. Remember, you're among friends here, so please feel free to express yourself and to answer any questions that your fellow elders may have. Brothers, we are obligated to put the interests of the congregation first.
Brothers, with all due respect, I don't agree with you that the congregation is disturbed about my or my family's situation. I've been in the congregation for 20 years. I know the publishers very well, and I'm sure no one is disturbed about my daughter's pursuing higher education. As far as my younger daughter is concerned, she was judicially reproved, but it wasn't announced to the congregation, so she's repentant. And no one has approached me expressing that they're disturbed about me supporting my daughters seeking higher education, trying to better themselves. It's not like they're leaving the truth.
Brother Brown, thank you for expressing how you feel. Let's give your fellow elders an opportunity to express their observations or concerns. Brothers, are there any comments or questions that you have for Brother Brown? Brother Anderson, please.
Brother Brown, it is true. Some of the congregation have been negatively affected. They've been disturbed by the example of your daughters pursuing higher education. You've openly talked about wanting the best life for your daughters. And this has given some the impression that the only way to get the best life, it's not through spiritual things, but through secular pursuits. Some of the congregation are even confused about what the organization has stated regarding pursuing higher education. In fact, Sister Single's daughter is considering pursuing higher education because of the example of your daughters.
Thank you, Brother Anderson. Brother Williams, please.
And just because the brothers and sisters have not approached you about this matter doesn't mean that they're not disturbed by what they see. They understand that it's a personal decision and that's something that you have to decide, but it still doesn't mean that your freeness of speech is not affected. In fact, the freeness of speech of the entire body of elders, as well as how successful we are as shepherds, has been affected as well. As Brother Anderson mentioned, when we promote the full-time ministry as the best way of life, this situation has now influenced how some of the congregation set that as a goal, or even want to set that as a goal for their life.
Brother Miller?
Andy, the scriptural qualifications at 1 Timothy chapter 3 say that an overseer in verse 4 and 5 should be a man presiding over his own household in a fine manner, having his children in subjection with all seriousness. Verse 3 says that he should be reasonable, not quarrelsome. Now, I know this is difficult for you. It's difficult for us too.
Don't tell me about being difficult. When we started this discussion, you all brothers said you love me and my family. Right now, I'm not feeling it. You've been nothing but negative.
Brother Brown, thank you for your comments. Please take a seat in the other room, and we'll call you back when we make our decision. Now, brothers, please open your shepherd book to chapter 8. You'll notice paragraph 30 discusses when a member of an appointed man's household pursues higher education, and paragraph 32, which outlines the procedure for reviewing the qualifications of such a man. Now, what are your observations? Brother Williams, please.
Brother Brown has served faithfully for many years. But the question that's within paragraph number 30 is important. How is he viewed by the congregation? Sad to say, the actions of his family have caused him to lose the respect of the congregation. In fact, some publishers have mentioned that if they need scriptural advice on family life, they'll just talk to another elder.
Thank you for those comments, Brother Williams. Brother Anderson, please.
The same paragraph says, if an appointed brother's children pursue higher education, does his life pattern show that he puts kingdom interests first in his life? I don't think any of us can honestly say that Brother Brown's family is viewed as putting kingdom interests first in their life. The conversations aren't spiritual, and I don't think the family, the wife, or the daughters have ever regular or auxiliary pioneered.
That is a cause for concern. Brother Miller, please.
I agree with those comments. And in addition, the last question in paragraph 30 asks, does the pursuit of higher education interfere with regular meeting attendance, meaningful participation in field service, or other theocratic activities? His girls are not visible in the ministry, and because of their class schedule, they rarely are at meetings. It's obvious that spiritual things have become second place in their life.
So it appears that they're drifting spiritually. Brother Anderson, please.
Yeah. And 1 Peter 5:3 says an overseer should be an example to the flock. But the reality is the family is a poor example, and they're having an influence on other young ones in the congregation who are now also considering pursuing higher education.
Now, looking at paragraph 31, what would you brothers say has been his response to the counsel that has been given? Brother Miller.
It hasn't been well. He's been belligerent. He's accused us of overstepping, and he keeps insisting that this is a personal family decision. He never took into consideration the feelings of the congregation. Unfortunately, he no longer has the freeness of speech as mentioned at 1 Timothy 3:13.
Brother Anderson.
And as it says in 1 Timothy 3:3, an overseer needs to be, should be reasonable and not quarrelsome. And James 3:17 reminds us wisdom from above is peaceable, reasonable, ready to obey. But sadly, he doesn't accept counsel from any of us. When we've counseled him on matters, he justifies it or minimizes it. He bullies the body. It's his experience and his opinions that have dictated outcomes. And I'm sure you've seen that today.
I did observe that. Thank you for those thoughts. Brother Williams, do you have something more to add?
Yes, I did. Initially, the first time we discussed this, we agreed that he doesn't have the respect of the body. But Brother Brown is very outspoken and he's very skilled. He's very skilled at manipulating the rest of the body to adjusting our viewpoints towards his viewpoint.
Thank you for sharing that. He can be rather persuasive. Is there anything else that your brothers would like to add to our consideration?
I didn't have anything more.
Okay. So we need to come to a decision regarding his qualifications, and we'll need to tell him the scriptural reasons why that decision is made when we invite him back to the room.
Do you mean you want us to tell him? I'm not sure. Andy always has such a hot temper. That's why it's usually easier to go along with his demands.
While that may have been true in the past, I know that you brothers want to do things that are in harmony with Jehovah's Holy Spirit and the direction from his organization. After weighing all of the facts.
All right. Well, anyways, they went on to disfellowship him. So I think you found that. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us.
Hey, Rick, this is Jesse, and you might.
Yes. Hold on 1 second. Jess is going to shut this off. All right. Just shut this off. Okay. Go ahead, Jesse. What's up?
Hey, I was removed. It's been probably 11 years that's called the qualifications committee. Now, when they assassinate you, let's say you're in field service or on a shepherding call. I was on a shepherding call with the circuit overseer, Andre Jeffroy, here in Yuma. He was from Canada or Seattle, somewhere up there. And they come up to you and they go, hey, are you that elder so-and-so? And then you go, yes. He goes, hey, how would you like it this Friday if we meet with the elders and we're going to have a qualifications committee? And they tell you with a smile, you know how in the video they're all robotic? They really are in real life robotic. The only elder that spoke like a real human was the one being removed. They really do act like that. They act like machines and not like human beings. And my qualifications committee was because my son was in high school wrestling. So it really is like that. But what it is, it turns it into a spiritual assassination. Now all the elders, it is empowering all the elders. For example, when an elder has a moment of weakness for anything like this one, that's when the other elders, if you have any enemies in the congregation, they're going to pounce on you and stab you in the back. All the elders, for example, let's say you have 5 elders in the congregation and 4 of them have disfellowship children and they were all forgiven. And your son decides to go to college. If those elders have any hate towards you, they're going to use that against you, even though they were forgiven in the past. So it is politics in the most basic level. This is politics 101. This is why I always say that Jehovah's Witnesses don't practice politics, electoral politics, because there's so much politics going on in the Kingdom Hall. It's all politics. Every elder has to watch his back. He could be assassinated at any time by his fellow brothers. And this is just empowering them. That's what 2 cents I wanted to share with you on that video.
Well, that's 2 cents. That's worth $200. That's a good comment. Thank you very much, Jesse. Hey, look at people are asking me where they can. Thank you, Jess. People are asking me where they can get a link to that. Why don't you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link to that video so you can have it and keep it and think about it, because I mean the Watchtower is so distorted in their reasoning. Well, who would like to speak up? Okay, we got 6, 7, 8. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let's go to Zachary first. Go ahead, Zach.
Rick, was this a video from the Watchtower Society?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a video from.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me clarify one thing. You said that they went on to disfellowship him. Do you mean delete him rather than disfellowship?
Well, no, the video just went on and they said he was disfellowship. So I mean, that would automatically delete him too. Yeah.
I think that's a mistake that you need to check out. That was a body of elders meeting to see if a brother should be removed as an elder. That was not a judicial committee. That was not a disfellowshipping.
Well, according to the information I have here from the PMO elder at Warwick.
You need to check that. No, take my word. You need to check that.
I'll check it. I'll check it. And if a mistake is made, I'll be glad to come on and retract it. But that's the yeah.
I'm telling you. But I want to comment on this idea of deleting a brother because he is an elder and this idea of college. I say shame on you, Watchtower, for not wanting people to go to college. Shame on the teaching committee for writing that script. Shame on, or for directing it to be written. Shame on the writing committee for writing that script. One of the things you see, one of the incorrect points they made, they said, because of these girls' schedule, they can't attend meetings. They're not visible at meetings. I had this experience. I went to college as a full-fledged witness, and as the kid that buttermouthed in my mouth in the congregation, you know what I mean? So I never forget, I must have been in the 12th grade, and I was high up in the class, academically, and I got a call from a woman. I was told to go to the motivation counselor's office, and the woman said, I don't see your name on the scholarship list. Are you going to college? And I told her, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses and working for God's kingdom. We're at the end of a system of things. And so I don't have the time to go to college. And the woman asked me, how long are you thinking it takes? You say you don't have time. How long do you think it takes? And I said, well, isn't it all day that I was spending, attending classes? She said, no, it's an average of 3 hours a day. That's 3 one-hour classes a day. That's full. That'll get you your degree in 4 years, attending it like that. If you're in high school, you spend more than 3 hours a day in school. But for some reason, college stops them from attending their classes. What a fallacy. And then to open that meeting, it really got me. To open that meeting up, early in the meeting, they said to him, you want a good life for your family, but, you're pursuing higher education instead of kingdom interest or spiritual interest. He's choosing between the two. His daughters are doing they're just simply continuing their education from high school. Such fallacious reasoning they have. It makes no sense, even in this day and time, when it seems like more jobs do seem to require college. I can't believe they're still taking that stand. Back in November 1992, there was a Watchtower, Education with a Purpose. And in that Watchtower, they allowed for college. They, instead of calling it higher education, they called it further education. And then around 2007, they started speaking against it again. I just say, shame on you, Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, for trying to discourage people from continuing their education. That's all I have.
Well,
to say.
Zach, I see there is some. Hold on, Scott. There is some anger. I can see, Zach, in your voice, but I can see why there would be. And just to clear something up too, I did say disfellowship. That's the information I got, but I guess that's what happened eventually. But he would have been deleted. You're right at that point there, Zach. He would have been deleted there, perhaps as an elder. And they might not have even mentioned it. They just might not have given him talks, let them do certain functions. But I guess eventually he was disfellowship from what I got here. So thank you, Zach. All right, let's go on. We've got the Scott coming in from, I think he's coming in from Is that Scott coming in from
Florida.
Florida. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, yeah. Down your old stomping grounds.
Yes.
This also angered me as well, watching it, because I'm a child of the 70s. So I spent a great deal of my time in school thinking, oh, I'll never get my driver's license. Oh, I'll never get a job. I'll never get married. I'll never have kids. All because I thought Armageddon was just around the corner. And so when I did finally get of age, my father encouraged me to go to college and get a degree in computers, because he worked in an assembly line and worked very physically hard all his life. And he told me his best advice, I remember it to this day, that you can either make your living sitting down or standing up. And he says, I advise you to make it sitting down. That was his advice to me. And so I went ahead and went to college, but I had one elder that didn't like it, because I was also pioneering at the time. But he would kind of make these snide remarks and comments, but he was the only one that did. So even when I got through with college and got a good job and started working, I worked for Eastman Kodak. I don't mind saying, back then they were pretty big. I was held back because my supervisor would encourage me to go on, and I went from a 2-year degree to a 4-year degree. And I felt like, oh, no, I don't need that. Armageddon's coming. You know, what I've got is enough. And I put it off. And I put it off for many years. Now, I did advance, and I am so thankful, because it took care of my family my entire life. I had a wife and 3 kids, and I was able to take care of them and take care of them well. I finally did go back to college, but not until after I finally just kind of got out of the truth, until I faded. And I went ahead and got my master's degree in IT, because I already had the experience. So I wanted a degree to back it up. But that just angered me, because I've seen plenty of circuit overseers that are just nasty SOBs. They can really be nasty sometimes. And I actually found that the local elders were sometimes a little bit kinder and a little bit nicer. But that's pretty irritating, because that's not true. You should be able to go to college, and it's really none of their damn business. That's the bottom line. And I don't care if somebody in the congregation doesn't like it. That's their problem, because you're not doing anything that's illegal. So that's how I feel about it. At any rate, it angers me.
Well, Scott, I'm so proud of you. I mean, you went on, you take good care of your family. You're doing good, Scott. You made the right decision. Good for you. Thanks for calling in. Okay, we've got, let's go. I think we've got, let's go. We got to go to 540 first. 540, you're on with us. Hold on one second.
Bravo.
Go ahead, 504. You're next in
Bravo
line.
to Scott for getting his master's degree. That's great going, Scott, for getting the master's. And my question, because I got angry too, what year do they think they're in? Because women have gone to medical school since 1889. Lots of women go into nursing and accounting, and men too. And if the young man or young woman is older than 18, which they would be, they graduate from high school, they go into college at 18, their father's karma shouldn't have anything to do with it, and vice versa. It's none of the business of these elders. And they sent Brumley up there in New York, they sent Brumley to Columbia Law School. So how dare he can go, but I'm told I can't go? They're living in a dream world that's worse than Amish people. And I like Amish people. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, Pixie, I have to say, look at the damage they have caused people. They have people living in unbelievable poverty because of their position on education. It's sick.
Yes.
It really is. Thank you, Pixie. I guess we got, is it Dick Bogie? Dick, did you want to come on and say something? We've got...
just a thought about that. I went to Newbury. It's a business college, and I graduated in 77. And I used to go Monday nights from 6 to 10, and on Wednesday nights 6 to 10. Those were the off meeting nights at the Kingdom Hall. So, I wasn't the sharpest guy graduating from high school, but I was able to, to get a degree and make all the meetings. So why are they going to disfellowship that elder or delete him because his daughters were doing something? That is so sick.
It is. I mean, I've listened to that video a few times this week, but now that I even listen to it again, I'm saying that is not right what they're doing. That is terrible. They are hurting so many people. Okay, we have got, it looks like 603. Want to come in, 603? You're with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Tom, 603, New Hampshire.
Yes, Tom.
Well, you know, my daughter was excellent student. She exceeded and excelled at everything, and she was put into all the Excel classes, and she could have easily gone to school. She really loved, so she chose her field is pediatrics. And she could have easily gotten scholarships and gone to college, but what she did was she, through her school, because it was offered, she got her certificates and everything through school, and she did get into that field, and she has a good job now because of that. But she could go so much farther, but she was so conditioned against that's as far as her as she could actually see her for her goal was to get the minimal certifications that they would allow through her high school without going through any extracurricular education. And so she is stuck in that spot because she is so conditioned and so believes their bull crap that she could actually be a pediatrician. She could be a doctor. She is very smart. She could be all those things, but she is not allowing herself to realize that because of her indoctrination. And that is a crime as far as I'm concerned. So I'm happy that she's doing what she wants to do, but she could be doing so much more. And that's all I have to say. They really have brainwashed her. I'm telling you, she could have gotten all these, she could have gone to college for free because she was that smart. But
well, that's
she was supposed to be a pioneer.
well, that is very sad, Tom. I'm sorry to hear that. Geez, that messed her life
Yep.
up, and she, I hope she's doing good today. But think of how much better you could be with an education. Really, all
Well, you know, I will say that she is doing better because she did finally decide to leave. But the thing is, she missed all those opportunities. They're gone now. You know.
Yeah.
That was her opportunities was she was in high school.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, she can't get those. She doesn't have that option anymore.
No.
She has to, and for herself, she has to pay her rent. She can't go to college anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not an option.
Well, geez, if she was smart enough, she could have got, like I say, a degree. I mean, from the state, they would have paid for her for being so smart. I mean, that's what happens. But the witnesses dampen everyone's spirit. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for calling it. Great. We've got. Hold on one second, Zach. Hold on one second. We have got 6, 7, 8. Been hanging on here for a while. Then we go to Zach afterwards. Go ahead, 6, 7, 8. You're on with us.
Yeah, this is Justin. Rick, I was just going to say this angers me as well. Funny thing is, the chairman in that video is a buddy of mine. His name is Julian Hines. Real nice guy. I served at Bethel with him. You know, the funny thing is that they're discouraging education, and the only way to get into Bethel right now is those who are educated. They need lawyers. They need doctors. They need accountants, and all of those people who are going to Bethel, they went and got education. And for them to be so hypocritical about that, it's just unbelievable to me. You know, I mean, like I said, I know the brother in the video. He's a friend of mine, and I'm a PMO. I've mentioned this before. But, you know, it's just so sad that so many people have lost out on the ability to take care of themselves to the full, the ability to live out their dreams because Armageddon was just around the corner so many lives were crushed, and it just really angers me to the hilt, to the ninth degree, that they would delete a brother or discourage anyone from going to college, when the only way you can get into Bethel right now is to be an educated person. That's what they want: graphic designers, nurses, dentists, lawyers. That's all they're asking for. And I mean, where do they think these people are getting these skills and training from? You have to go to college. There's no other way. Sorry for taking up so much time, Rick, but it just really angers me to see this video.
Well, it does. It's a very, well, it does. It makes a lot of people angry. And so many people's lives could have been enhanced. But I like what you said, Justin. You know, they're looking now for accountants and then people that can work on video production and graphic artists and all of this. That takes training. But the Watchtower discouraged it. Well, thank you, Justin. I really appreciate that comment. Thank you very much. We got to go to, let's go with 308. I'm sorry. In fact, we have to go to Zach. I did say Zach would be next. So you're next. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm sorry. And let me clarify on myself. When I told you that I was called to that office, and I said, it takes all day, Doug. And she said 3 hours a day on the average. And that day, I started looking at college catalogs. And the next year I did go, after graduation, at the end of that summer, I did go on to college. And it was the best decision I could have made. But there was something else in that meeting. There's someone on the suite named Winter who posted about the personality. And I wanted to mention that before. They make him, all right, and this thing about does he qualify because of his daughters pursuing higher education. They bring in the man's personality. Now, his personality apparently was okay all the time, but because his daughter's going to college, now we got to talk about his personality. And it's interesting how they bring that in, even though that doesn't really relate to the subject. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that they do. I also saw, was reminded, Winter posted about them bringing in that one of the daughters was on private reproof. They handled her judicially. So these are other things that have nothing to do with the question of whether or not a person should continue their education. But they bring that in to try to slant the opinion of the person looking at the video. And I think it's disgusting. Shame on you, Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, for pushing the idea that people shouldn't pursue a college education. Shame on them.
Well, Zachary, I really appreciate your angry attitude. I like to hear that from you. That makes me happy. It really does. I like to see.
If there's an argument and the other person's presenting a strong argument, like I'm thinking it takes all day long to go to college. Your whole day is taken up, and this woman tells me it's an average of 3 hours a day. Three 5-hour classes, 3 times 5 is 15. That gives you 15 credits for that semester. Multiply that times 8 semesters, you got 120 credits. That's a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts degree. Yeah. When the argument is good and correct, I'm right with you. Good. So when she told me that, it was like, oh, there's no basis for what I said. And give me the catalogs. Mm-hmm.
Well, Zach, you made my night. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, we have got, let's go here. Let's go with, I guess we're going to go right here. Let's go with, we got a number on here tonight. We'll stay in line, folks. I'll call you by area code. 312. Go ahead, 312. You're on with us.
Okay, and I'll be very quick. I really enjoyed Zachary's comments. I feel like he's literally living in my head. I just wanted to say it is amazing the bad advice that has come from this organization. There's so many times when I think about how my life would have been different had I not listened to the bad advice from this organization. Before you played that video, you were talking about the cost of living, how high things are, and people feel very insecure because of how things are. They can't plan. Meat costs too much. Where are you going to live? All of this. And imagine as time goes on, it's going to cost more money to live any kind of a decent life. And here you have Watchtower discouraging people from getting an education, which is the only way, that more than likely the only way, more than likely, that they're going to be able to have a decent life, all because they listen to the bad advice from this organization. Secondly, I'll be very brief. It was amazing to me how in the video, which by the way, I was listening to that video during the week on XJW Caleb, and Watchtower pulled the video. So we never even got to hear the majority of it. We were listening to it, and the audio went, and then the video was gone, irretrievable. So that lets you know Watchtower is monitoring your channel and the other activist channel. But the point that I wanted to make was they started off talking about turn to, not the Bible, but turn to chapter XYZ in the Elder's book, and let's read this and let's read that. And in that whole conversation that you played, I only recall hearing one scripture. So that lets you know this organization is not about God. Watchtower itself has said at least 4 times in print they are not inspired of God. And yet when they're dealing with a quote-unquote spiritual matter, do they go to the Bible? No, they go to their own publication. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Good comment. Very good comment. Let's go. We've got a number of callers coming in. I'm just going to bring you on as you came in.
Well, I'm 308.
Yeah, right, Debbie. You're on. Go ahead, Debbie. You're on with us.
Okay, what I was going to mention, that they want everybody to contribute all of this money to their quote unquote worldwide work and their emergency funds and all that kind of stuff. But they make it so people cannot possibly afford to contribute for all of these things because they're having to work so hard at jobs that don't pay a living wage even just to make ends meet. And if they have children, well, that's another added expense that they shouldn't have to forego having children because of not having enough education to get a really good job. But I mean, even with a good education, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get a good job, but at least you have a better chance at it. Plus, we were never encouraged to have any type of a retirement account set aside for us. So now most of us that were in the 60s are kind of hitting the 60s, mid-60 mark, and we don't have much of anything to fall back on. And a lot of us are falling into between the cracks. But then, you know, good things happen even when bad things happen. But still, all in all, a lot of us did miss our chance at fulfilling our dreams because of the bad advice from the Watchtower Society.
Well, Debbie, very good comment, and I just want to elaborate on that a little bit. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are many people listening to this program tonight, and they have had their lives literally destroyed financially by this organization. They forewent college. They forewent good careers. They even if they were trying to come up on the ladder in a company, sometimes they would have to go to a convention and have to quit their job, start another one. This organization has caused more poverty than anything I can imagine. And now they're constantly cranking the witnesses to give them more money. Well, where do you think they're going to get the money from? At least the Mormons, the Mormons are like, I think, 2 or 3 times richer than the Jehovah's Witnesses. But the Mormons encourage higher education. They have their own university, Brigham Young, for example. So the witnesses missed the mark on this. What a terrible, nasty organization. And then when you come out and you're condemning this elder like we just saw because his daughters want to go to school. I mean, first of all, Stop and think about it. I just want you to think about this for a second. These are adult girls. In other words, they have to be 18 years old or at least. So they want to go to college. What business is that of the Watchtower? Even though the father is supporting it, and even though he might even finance it, it's none of the Jehovah's Witness business. Really, they have to jump into everything, into everyone's business, and it certainly is despicable what this Watchtower does. And I've actually even heard of cases on this program where Jehovah's Witness elder parents would kick their child out of the house, kick their child out of the house because they had a desire to go to college. How sick is that? So, I have to tell you that it's really disturbing to me and disturbing to a lot of people listening in. Dick Borgie, you're on with us from California. Go ahead. Dick is next. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. It's been said quite often on Six Screens that Brother Noor was the one who was discouraged getting a higher education. And that's because he was pretty much on the dumb side. And it's just the way they do things. I can remember hiding my books, put them in a paper bag, and an elder saw me going down. He lives in the same apartment complex with me, and he said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to school." Really? He said, "What school?" And I told him, and he says, "So you're trying to get a college degree?" And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'm going on the GI Bill, so it pays the rent." He says, "Well, brother, so-and-so has a carpet cleaning business. Why don't you go work for him and get the same amount of money?" I said, "Well, because on the GI Bill, I make more money than this brother who was shampooing carpets made. So that's where I'm going." He just kind of shook his head. But I think it all comes from Brother Noor. He didn't want people to get an education because he was pretty dumb himself. Thanks, Rick.
It very well could have, Dick. But, we've even...
Hi, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Rick, it's Tim again. Just quickly, a caller before said about the witnesses not referring to the Bible and just referring to their own books, which is usual what they do. I suppose they wouldn't want to look too far into the Bible. They might find that Luke, that wrote the book of Luke, he was a physician, wasn't he? So I suppose he would have had to have some training there. And then someone in the chat mentioned about Jesus had higher education. Well, the thing is, Jesus still had a trade, and he didn't actually start his service till 30. So, I mean, what was he doing wrong there? He should have been baptized at age 12, shouldn't he? And yeah, so there's that. And one other thing I was going to say, the video was annoying, but I saw a positive there. I liked the way that this Brother Brown guy talked to the elders. He wasn't taking their crap, and I think that to me was a great example, because people are just too submissive when it comes to the elders, and they allow them to walk over them. I hate that. So yeah, I loved his attitude there. That's all I've got.
I liked his attitude too. And the thing was, though, see, that's the attitude is one of the things that got him in trouble too. See, you can't question them. You can ask the witness, you can ask the elders the question, but don't question their answers. I mean, the guy was just being legitimate about it all. But terrible what goes on. Unbelievable. Well, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But I'll tell you, I'll give you my own experience. After leaving high school, I always wanted to be a broadcaster. I always wanted to get into the broadcasting world, and so I went to broadcasting school for a while. And that was a college. It was an accredited college in Boston, Cambridge Broadcasting School. So I went there, and boy, I had to just keep my mouth shut. The witnesses did not like me talking about it. I couldn't really say much about it. They looked at that as kind of a worldly business, broadcasting, entertainment, whatever they thought it would be. I mean, they didn't like it. But, when I was in broadcasting school, I actually was trying to, get some encouragement from the witness world. So what I did is I actually even had a Bible study with 12, in fact, 13 students in the school, and we would meet in a diner in Boston, and we would study the Bible. And I remember going to the literature counter and getting, I believe it was a truth book we were studying, and getting 13 truth books. And I said, we're studying. I was trying to really amplify it and, shout it out that, I'm going to school, but I'm studying with people too. They weren't totally impressed. They weren't. But, they always wanted me to kind of keep it down. Don't talk about it. But, there's so many areas of thought on this. And my main thought on Jehovah's Witnesses condemning education, it's evil. It's really evil. It should be a crime. No one should really stop you from getting an education. Geez, I mean, why would they do that? And when you stop and think about it too, I know, in fact, I'm going to tell you, the valedictorian, I know a Jehovah's Witness right up here in Lowell, and I knew his mother and father, and he was the smartest guy in school. I mean, he was the valedictorian. And anyways, I even believe he gave a speech at his graduation. That's what the valedictorian does. They take the smartest kid in school and they give a speech. But he had all kinds of scholarships. I mean, he could have gone wherever he wanted to go. He was super smart Jehovah's Witness kid. But, he chose to go into the pioneer work. I mean, really, I don't know what his life is like today. And he actually even worked for me at one point when I had a company. And he used to come in, and this guy could have gone on to college. And I'll tell you, today his life could, I'm sure, be really, really enhanced. But even witnesses, I mean, let's face it, they're not all dummies. Some of them are very, very smart, but they turn down scholarships. And I even see that Elaine was writing in here tonight. You guys have seen it on YouTube. She was writing, too, that she actually had a scholarship, but the Watchtower kind of discouraged her from going forward. So it's sick. Okay, we've got who wants
Rick?
yes, go ahead,
Rick?
Zach. Yeah.
Rick, it's Zachary again. My bad. You're reminding me. The reason why that woman pulled me into her office at the beginning of my senior year is because I was academically high, and at graduation I ended up first in the class academically, and so there were other awards and things, but I didn't get a scholarship because I was too late. I didn't have my name in the right place at the right time. But I had to go back to school after graduation, and we had to write thank you notes for any awards that we got. And there had an English teacher looking at our thank you notes and correcting them, and you couldn't, we had to handwrite them in pen, and you know how you mess up and you go over a letter again? And, she checked every note. And one of my notes I wrote, and I wrote over a letter again. She says her name was Mrs. Johnson. She said, "This is very nice, but what happened here?" And I had to go back and write the note over again. And I started getting nervous because people were dropping off and I was still having to write notes. And I'll tell you this too, I ended up in 2 different who's. So I'm so glad. I can't tell you how glad I am to have made the decision I made. And the friends did this stuff that they're talking about. The friends are bothered, but they're not telling you. Some of that, when you think about it, is nothing but gossip. People are gossiping because this kid went to college or is going to college. They're finding fault. They have nothing better to do sometimes but to find fault with someone else. But I did find this to happen. I found that there were parents who had kids who would come to me and tell me, oh, my son is going to such and such, some advanced high school, and they give them college credits for this or that. And so you kind of hear what people really want. They really do want to be able to let their kids continue in their education. They really do want that. So that's all.
Well, Zach, I have to tell you, I mean, to be in who's, you've had to have some accomplishments in your life. And you had that. And I don't see you coming on here in a braggadocious way. I see you coming on and explaining. And how sad it is that, even though you had some really good IQ, that still the Watchtower would try to hold a man like you back. Sad for that.
And then you know something, Rick? A lot of those skills that you pick up, you really do pick up a couple of skills, and they get used in behalf of the Watchtower when you're carrying out your duties, because they want people giving public talks. Back, it used to be 45 minutes, and then it was dropped to half an hour. But you get some of those things, you carry them out a little better by getting the extra education than you carried out before you got it. You know, I can't believe that in this day and time, they're still denigrating college. I mentioned earlier that in 1992, the Watchtower came out, Education with a Purpose, and they used the term further education. They were talking about college level education, and it was kind of an okay, you can go. And there were witness children who were going. But I remember in 2007 attending a meeting, a Bethel meeting, you know, at the district convention. And they had that meeting for people who want to go to Bethel. And I was just kind of interested in seeing what was going on. And I think it was Brother Lett who was conducting the meeting. And he said this, he said, many times people are asking, would it help them if they had some college? Would it help them to get into Bethel more easily? And he said, you don't need to have, you know, college education to get into Bethel. We need spiritual people. And he said, in fact, it might hurt you. It might hurt your prospects of getting into Bethel when you consider the way we've been discouraging college recently. So it was like in 1992, they kind of opened it up. And then in the early 2000s, they started to close the door to people being able to go to college. They started cutting it out again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know the Watchtower is in no way trying to help anybody, Zach, and they certainly didn't try to help you. I mean, they caused more problems than it's worth. All right, we got some.
That's not me.
All right. So I do. Okay, let's go 304. 304, come on. You're with us. Go ahead, Kurt. 304, you're on with us. You want to come on, Kurt? Hit *6. Well, maybe he doesn't want to come on, but I do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, that noise, it didn't come from my phone either. I wanted to agree with everything you guys are talking about on education. I'm not in disagreement with it. I wanted to play devil's advocate just for a minute, though. A college would come under, to the witnesses, you know better than I know, it would come under the being part of the world. And also they add the idea of putting kingdom interest first. We're all aware of that. College has been a real test for some people that are Christians that go to college. Sometimes they lose their faith. Some don't, some do. In that video you played, I'm not certain if they referred to the idea in 1 Timothy 3 about the elder and ministerial servant each. Both should have their children in subjection, so they would apply that where the elder would be in sync with the Watchtower on higher education, and that elder would teach his children, and they would also go along. So in this case, they didn't, and so they either deleted him and, or as you mentioned, disfellowshipped him. So I don't agree with the fundamentalism of not going to college to give yourself a better chance in life and your children, etc. I don't agree with it, but they do it as a very fundamental approach to the scriptures. Anyway, thank you for taking my call, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Kurt. We really appreciate you calling into the 6 screens. Wow, I'll tell you, that subject really got a lot of attention this week, and Watchtower actually having that leaked video showing how they really get condemn higher education is a disgusting thing. 603, you want to come in? Go ahead, from New Hampshire. Go ahead.
Yes, very. Yes, to me, okay, they very much push. We don't need doctors and lawyers, but we need carpenters. We need people in the trades, carpenters and plumbers and electricians. And they really push that. It's okay to go to a trade school. It's encouraged because they are now in the real estate business and they need these tradespeople to be trained. And it is actually, for one thing, it is a beneficial for the people that do that because they do make good money doing that kind of work because it's definitely it's a good paying job and they can make good money doing it. But as they have switched from being a publishing company to a real estate company, they really want people in the trades to come and build their projects. And it's okay if you go to a trade school. It's not frowned upon at all. It is encouraged.
Well,
Do you agree?
yeah, no, I'm with you, Tom. I mean, I don't know what it is, but they do know that. I mean, obviously, I think the Watchtower will have to change their position on all of this. That they could be so much more wealthy today if they actually encourage their kids to get higher education. But the reason, what do you think the reason is they didn't want people to have a higher education, Tom? You must know that, right?
Well, I do know because they don't want them to go to college and learn critical thinking.
Right.
Is the biggest. But if they go to a technical college, they're just going to learn how to build something and how to fix things.
Right.
They're not going to learn about psychology, and they're not going to be able to pull apart their tricks that they're playing. And that is why they don't want them to go to real college.
Why, you're absolutely
because,
right.
Yep.
Good.
I do believe that, you know.
Well, that's the story behind the story. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you. Always good to hear from you from New Hampshire.
Well,
yeah, thank you.
And one more thing
Yeah.
is, okay, and I think it's great. And the problem is now all of a sudden, all these young men that happen to get into this industry, now they're constantly being groomed to come to Bethel or Beth Serene or whatever the hell project they got going on. And so now they're going to give their time and their money and their life to, they think they're actually going to Bethel, but they're not serving in Bethel. They're serving part-time to build a project that then they're going to sell it. And that's the problem. You know, then they're going to sell it. So they're sacrificing their time and their lives and having a secure life here so that they can go to New York and give of their time and feel like they're actually being Bethelites. But they're not being Bethelites. They're being used to build this shit.
They're cult members. They're cult members. Well, thank you, Tom. Thanks for checking in with us tonight. Appreciate your comments. Let's move on to Aposta Babe. Go ahead, Linda James. What's on your mind?
So I wanted to just add, Tom mentioned that his daughter can't, it's too late for her to go to school again. I just want to say that she might have had access to scholarships back then, but if you go to a junior college now, there's something called a Pell Grant, and you get to fill out the paperwork and qualify for it, and that's for anyone. Or you can ask if they do have any scholarships available, because sometimes there just is scholarships there waiting to be used. So going to making a few phone calls, seeing what's available, maybe she can pick up where she left off. And there's usually childcare at the place you go to college, because early childhood education is being taught as well, and they need live little children. So you get to have less expensive childcare, and all the teachers are there supervising, and then, you know, you have your kids on campus with you.
Thank you. I will definitely let her know. Hopefully she gets the impending doom out of her head and decides that she will have a future, and I will do everything I can to help her achieve that future. But she right now still believes that just because she's not one of the witnesses, she's going to die at Armageddon any day, and it's coming, because that's what she was brought up to believe since she was conceived.
Yeah. That's the phobia indoctrination, yeah. That's the toughest one. Okay, that's what I wanted to share about. There is scholarships available.
Thank you. I will definitely, I agree, and I will definitely share that with her, and hopefully that will help. Thank you. And sure, it will help other people.
All right, well, that's Linda James. That's your favorite apostate. That's Apostate Babe, you just heard. Now, she has a program coming on at 11 o'clock tonight, Eastern Standard Time. Apostate Babe will be on, and she'll be burning the midnight oil here on the 6 screens. So why don't you listen in to Linda tonight? Go ahead, give her a shot. I think she'd really be so happy to have you call into the program and talk with her. She does a great program every Saturday night here on the 6 screens Telenetwork. Well, let's move on. Let's go to the next story. Now, friends, you know, Kingdom Halls have been being sold off left and right. Well, we have a Kingdom Hall up here that we talked about that just made into a church, Dracut, Massachusetts. It was a Kingdom Hall, and now we know that it is a Protestant church. And then we hear this happening pretty much all over the nation, all over the world. We have Kingdom Halls that are being turned into Muslim temples. We have, in fact, even Kingdom Halls being turned into many businesses, doctors' offices, in fact, even a donut shop we saw. But this kind of took the cake when I saw that this week. Kingdom Hall in Arkansas. It's now a cigar lounge. Yeah, you can go in there, and it's called the Outpost Cigar Lounge, where you can get premium cigars. And anyways, premium cigars are at great prices, all the accessories you need, high-end knives, beard oils. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses don't go along with beards either, right? But you can get beard oils. I never had a beard, but I guess they put the oil on the beard somehow. Maybe someone with a beard could tell us about that. And you can get flashlights, and it's quite the marketplace, but it's a cigar store. And I want to show you a picture of it. So let's bring it in right now. Let's share some pictures with you. So there you go. I mean, this is the cigar case that you're seeing right there. Magic Toast, Alec Bradley, all of these brand name Mac cigars. I mean, the Watchtower doesn't approve of smoking. Why would they sell a Kingdom Hall to a cigar shop? I mean, seriously, they don't care. They just want the money. Well, that is in Arkansas. But let me scroll down here. I want you to see some more pictures of this because I found it interesting. So they have a spacious lounge where you can enjoy a premium hand-rolled cigar with friends, catch up on your emails, and play dominoes or watch the game. We carry, they say, most brands of cigars. So, I mean, a Kingdom Hall being turned into a cigar company, a cigar store. I mean, really, stop and think about it. Take a look at some of these pictures. Now, this picture got my attention. That picture got my attention. You can see it on the 6 screens videos on our YouTube. That is a ram. Now, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but Baphomet, the ram is like an occultic symbol. And basically speaking, Baphomet is a ram like that. And allegedly he was worshipped by the Knights Templar and then became incorporated in various occult in Western esoteric traditions. But that is Baphomet. You could say, I mean, I'm not saying it is, but it certainly does look like Baphomet. a ram, and it's a cultic symbol. And there he is on the wall of a former Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. So you'll kind of put that in your pipe and smoke it. So let's turn down here. Now let's do. Oh, there we go. Well, there's a table. Now those chairs, they look like those chairs could have been left over from the Kingdom Hall. They look like Kingdom Hall chairs, don't they? But anyways, take a look here. Those are all. That's a table where you can sit down and play cards or whatever. But those are all cigar wrappers. I mean, how fitting is that for a former Kingdom Hall to become well, there's a humidor. That's where they keep the cigars, nice and fresh. You can walk in there and get your favorite cigar. That might be the back room at the Kingdom Hall, a far cry from what it used to be. Now it's a humidor. Now it's a place where cigars are kept so they don't go stale. Now, here we go. Now, this is the lounge. Take a look at this. You can walk into the lounge and you can sit there on those nice leather chairs and you can smoke a nice cigar to your heart's content. Friends, this is a former Kingdom Hall. Do the witnesses really care who they're selling Kingdom Halls to? Cigars, you be disfellowship for smoking a cigar. But none the Watchtower, I mean, sold the Kingdom Hall to a cigar company. And look at this, all the cigars that are available. And big expensive cigars too. So I want to share that thought with you today. The lounge is what got me. Look at that. That would be right there in a Kingdom Hall. Look at the animal heads, the goat. Look at that goat head over to the left. That goat head, that's an occultic symbol. I mean, I hope I'm not reading more into this than I should. But friends, wake up, smell the coffee. Smell the coffee. The Kingdom Hall should be sold. When they sell a Kingdom Hall, they should really understand who the buyer is. And what are you going to use this hall for? I mean, if they were really God's channel on earth and trying to dispense truth on all occasions, don't you think they would be concerned on who is buying these Kingdom Halls? Well, evidently not. I mean, that is quite, that picture right there speaks volumes. A cigar lounge, animal heads, a goat head. I mean, come on. This is just too much to handle. I mean, I just hope that I'm not, over amplifying or really exaggerating here, or reading more into it than I should. But I mean, I'm just calling it as I see it. I don't think a Kingdom Hall should be sold to a cigar store. I mean, that's my opinion. But I have nothing to do with it, so I can't really make decisions for them. But we'll stop sharing that now. But I'm sure you guys must have opinions. Well, what do you think? Should a Kingdom Hall really be sold to a cigar store? What do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. We know Kingdom Halls are being sold off all over the place, but it's just totally unbelievable what goes on in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. They talk a good game. They got the truth. They want you to stay away from demons. They want you to walk the straight and narrow. But when it comes to selling a Kingdom Hall, my goodness gracious, anything goes. Just give me the money. I don't care what you do here. You can have a seance here. I don't care. That's their attitude. Go ahead. We have 906. You're on with us. Go ahead, 906.
Yes, Mr. Farron.
Yes.
I would say no, a firm no. They shouldn't sell their Kingdom Halls to something like a cigar shop or a brothel or a tavern or anything like that. It's like you said a minute ago, if they're really and truly God's channel on earth and everything like that, they would not allow their building to be sold to something like that.
Well, thank you, Ken, for commenting on that.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you. There has to be some level of dignity, some level of consciousness in this organization. All of us as humans, we know when things aren't good. We know when our conscience is tainted. Don't you think the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower officials would have a tainted conscience to selling a Kingdom Hall to a church, which they always said is Satan's organization, or to a cigar store? I mean, they want us, when I was a witness, to have a deep-rooted conscience and let your conscience speak to you. But is the Watchtower officials' conscience speaking to them? I have to say no. I have to say no. Okay, we got 732. Go ahead. You're coming on with us. Go ahead. Love to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick. It's Richard. I'm from the UK, but living in New Jersey. I remember a Kingdom Hall being sold in Leicester in the UK, and it was sold to a Pentecostal church. And I questioned why it was sold to a Pentecostal church, and the elder at the time said, if the devil himself offered us money for the building, we would have accepted it. So they have zero conscience when it comes to taking money.
Yeah, wherever they have to get it from, they'll take it. Geez, we really appreciate your comments. I think this is the first time you called in.
I've been sitting in the background for a while. I've known of the program for many years. Yeah, it's the first time I've actually commented. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you are over here now and you moved from the UK to New Jersey. And I hope all goes well for you, brother.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm actually friends with Pixie and other people. And yeah, I make independent horror movies and stuff like that and have lots of fun nowadays, free from the Watchtower.
Oh, do you really? Huh? You're into horror movies, huh? That's interesting. I know some other people that do that too. Well, that's interesting. Well, glad you called in tonight. I always love to hear from new ones calling in. Now you come back and see us again, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Well, there you go. There you go. See that? New people calling in. We always love to hear from new ones. I mean, that really makes our day here at the Six Screens. So what do you think? I mean, I don't know if you were an official of the Watchtower, would it bother you to sell a Kingdom Hall to a
Mr.
church?
Farron?
Yes. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead.
this is Stefan once again.
Yes, Stefan.
Yeah, to me, it should bother them. My old Kingdom Hall, the Assembly Hall that I grew up in, that was sold to a church. The old Kingdom Hall I attended was sold, became a church, and two other ones that I know of. And then about 2 years ago, I was in the West Coast on vacation, and I was up in Arizona, in Sedona, and I kept with the tour, and we kept going past this building, and and I was fully promo, but I just kept looking at the building, and I realized that this was a Kingdom Hall, or at least had been at one point, and now it's some New Age church, and I believe that you have talked about it at some point on there. So that just shows how shameless this group is. How can a building be quote unquote dedicated to God when it was built? You have a meeting on Thursday and you would attend, and then sold on Saturday, and then Sunday you can't step foot in the building because it's a church and it's the same building. This is the biggest con job ever.
Well, thank you. In fact, that gets me thinking. You're absolutely right. So you're in a Kingdom Hall, and a week later you're in a church. They don't want you going to church at all. I mean, they could disfellowship you for going to a person's wedding in a Catholic church or any church. Yet at the same time, they
Exactly.
sell their buildings to a church. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Jeez.
Not at all.
How do you make sense out of nonsense? That's what I keep saying here on the Six Screens. It's just totally baffling to me what this organization gets away with, but yet the people just loyally adhere to it. Nutcase stuff.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Well, my goodness, we're so glad we had so many people calling in tonight. Now, I have to tell you, we've got more programming tomorrow. We got more programming coming up here tonight. But we're gonna end this program here very shortly, and we have another program coming on shortly as well. And it's telling you a story. Maybe you could tell us about your trek on the Watchtower. We don't have to go into a whole long story, but we're gonna ask you some questions and how you feel about the Watchtower today. So, telling you a story about being in the Watchtower, that's coming up next. A new program here on the Six Screens, and just wanted to remind people that. We do this every Saturday night and every other Sunday here on the Six Screens. Now, we will be back on tomorrow, Sunday, beginning at noontime. And we have a number of programs. Now, on Sunday, what we do is we revert or we go into theological teachings. And, there's some scriptures mentioned. We don't do it here on Saturday night. But if you're concerned about Watchtower theology, and you want to see where they really went wrong with it, join us tomorrow beginning at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have a program coming on called Knowing God After the Watchtower. And tomorrow, our guest speaker is Scott Walton, and he is going to be discussing how the witnesses used to worship Jesus, but they don't do it anymore. So he's coming on tomorrow at noontime. And then we have to go to 1 o'clock. We have Cochise Pendleton. He lives out in California. He's got a program called the Cochise Pendleton Hour. He has written the book, The Bible versus the Watchtower. Got a lot to say. Now, tomorrow he's going to be talking about aliens. He's going to be talking about aliens, and he's going to be talking about a lot of the things Christians are now faced with that they've never been faced with before. Wokeism, the aliens that are coming soon that we're constantly hearing about. He'll be discussing that tomorrow on his program at 1 o'clock right here on the Six Screens Network. And then at 2, we have ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Christian testimony. We have Anne Marie that does that program. She'll be on tomorrow at 2. And then at 3, we do JW World News Sunday edition. We'll be bringing you right up to speed on what's going on behind the curtains. And then at 4, we do the Christian Court. Oh, my goodness, what a program that is. Now, listen, if you guys, I know you'd find this program very fascinating. It deals with peculiar Christian questions, not salvation points, but things like, when the communion is passed, you drink wine with it or you take grape juice. Simple little things like that. So that's tomorrow beginning at 4 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock, all of your Bible questions will be answered by Jay Hess. He was associated with the Watchtower Writing Department, and he'll be on tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I'm sorry, 5 o'clock, right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Now, listen, if you really like our program and you've been listening in tonight, and you say, wow, I kind of enjoyed this. We have a number of people associated with the Six Screens that are doing a fantastic job. Barbara Anderson, Fritz Springmeyer. We have so many people that are doing independent programs here. Apostle Babe coming on all night long. People doing these programs. And if you like the programs, why don't you just put like? We're not monetized here. Nobody's making any money here. It costs me $400 a month just to do this. I'm not complaining, just explaining. So nobody's making any money, okay? It's not monetized. You don't see commercials. No one's asking you for money. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, don't send any money here. I tell you that every week. People still want to do it. But I want to do this on my own dime. Nobody charged me. I didn't have to become a patron. I didn't have to have special privileges by spending more money. I'm giving you the raw, honest to goodness truth. There's no money being made here. It costs me money to do it. But don't send any money here, please. Give it to someone that can really, really use it. But the point I want to make, if you really want to help me here at the Six Screens, here's what you do. Why don't you like us? Why don't you subscribe to our channel? Why don't you share it on Facebook? That's what you can do to help me. That can, or get on Reddit, get on JWN. Don't be ashamed to say you're associated with the Six Screens. Don't be ashamed to say, well, gee, I listen to the Six Screens. Get on there and spread it. Don't you want other people to learn about this? That's all I'm asking you to do. That's all I'm asking to do. Spread the news. Let people know what's going on here every Saturday night. We've been doing it for going on 18 years. So that's all you got to do. That would make me happy. And I'll continue doing this. I never missed a night. I never missed a Saturday night and going on 18 years. I am here because you are here. You need this. This is therapy. This is helping so many Jehovah's Witnesses. So just spread it for us. Get the word out there. Let people know that you're listening to the Six Screens. I know that there's many Watchtower operatives. They try to down us. They try to degrade us. They discredit us. Don't listen to that baloney. You let people know you listen to the Six Screens and spread the word. That would make me a happy camper. I really mean it. And then we can continue this program for as long as we possibly can. But that's what we need. We need your support. Not money, no money, but your support in spreading what we do here every Saturday night. So do that for us. I really would appreciate it. Now, and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all you have to do. Just hit the subscribe button. It's not a big deal. It's not going to cost you anything. But do that, and the algorithms of YouTube will get more people coming in and listening to this program, and how enjoyable it would be as we get more and more people to listen in and comment here on the 6 screens of the Watchtower Telenetwork. Thank you very much for coming in. We got another program coming up. Now, if you'd like to tell your story about being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we got an hour program coming up. You want to come in and, just tell us for 5 or 10 minutes about your trek in the Watchtower, that'd be fine. So let's end this broadcast. We'll see you on the other end. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We still have live broadcasting here on the 6 screens Telenetwork. And thank you all for coming in tonight to JW World News. And now you're right up to date on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We'll end it there. Stay with us.